Hi, my name is Edward Lipsey, and this is for my school law class, and I'm sitting with.
My name is David Kincaid, and I'm the school social worker at East Bay High School.
Today we'll be asking Mr. Kincaid a series of questions about child abuse, who to report for child abuse, and the mandated line of how to file a child abuse. Let's get started.
Sure thing.
Number one, how would you define child abuse?
Child abuse is anything that can put a child at risk of or endanger them. It also has to do with abandonment. And for the types of danger, it could be emotional, medical neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse. So a variety of those things. Anything that can endanger a child or is endangering.
So it's not just physical, it's also emotional too.
Correct. Now, as you might ask me later, that's a little more difficult to find out about, or
Right.
for the students to articulate. But yes, anything that's endangering or risking of harm.
Awesome. Two, who is mandated to report child abuse?
Well, in Florida,
Okay.
the statutes say that any adult is mandated, or any adult that is aware of it. However, there are occupations that they specifically list in the statutes.
Okay.
Cops, judges, mental health providers, school employees, medical professionals. So they have specifically identified those occupational people as necessary. But the statute does just say any adult that is aware of it or has a suspicion of it. So.
Anyone. And then is teachers listed in that category?
Correct. We're under the school employees. And again, there is for not, the consequence is a third-degree felony.
Oh.
So for those the occupations they specifically listed, it's quite serious.
To not, yeah, absolutely.
Correct. Yeah. After the Penn State, a lot of states, when there was the allegation of abuse on the football team.
Oh, yeah.
At that time, some states just had reported to your superior and
Right.
not necessarily to an agency or the police. So a lot of states revisited their laws and made it from a misdemeanor to a felony. So.
Yeah, especially after that event.
Correct.
Makes sense. What is the process? Well, you just said that everybody is a mandated reporter. What
Correct.
is the process for a mandated reporter to follow?
So in the school system here, anytime someone is made aware of it, they are obligated to find out, ask some very basic questions, who might have perpetrated it. Again, the law is a guardian or a parent.
Beautiful.
So if it's, say, like an uncle that visited over the weekend, that would be a police matter.
Okay.
However, if the parent potentially created the situation or was neglectful in that, then that might come in. So there is some little nuance. Try to find out who might have allegedly perpetrated this or is putting the child at risk.
Okay.
But we're supposed to just report the suspicion. We're not
Gotcha.
necessarily supposed to ask very in-depth questions, ask to see bruises or take pictures. We're really supposed to get an idea of who might have done it, what might have been the cause. Then we reach out, let the professionals come in and ask those difficult questions or have the authority to interview all of the suspects.
Nice. And who are these? So we're not investigators as mandated reporters.
Correct.
Who are the professionals that you call? Is it child services or?
Well, here in Florida, there's the 1-800-96 abuse, or we can email through the website. But we call them. It's a Florida. We tell them what county we're from. We tell them the circumstances. At the end of the call, they'll tell us if it's been accepted. Then they would report to the county, and then each county has their own system of how that information is disseminated, and then who takes responsibility.
Oh, okay.
So here we have CPI, the Child Protective Investigators, which are under the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. They're not necessarily deputized or sheriffs, but they work like their shirts have embroidered with the sheriff. So they're the ones that actually go out, see if it's founded or not, and if they need to take action.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a process.
Right, so it might be different in other counties. Again, I'm more familiar with Hillsborough, but call in if it's accepted within 24 hours. They're supposed to have interviewed everyone that they could and determine if the call is founded or not.
Founded or not in
Yeah.
the system.
Right.
wow, okay. What is the preferred way, because we're all mandated reporters, what is the preferred way to report abuse in your professional experience?
For me, the phone is, to me, allows you the opportunity to articulate or ask follow-up questions, because they have a standard set of questions they'll ask you. In the written form, you might leave something out, or maybe it's not clear, or I just feel like I can give the best answers verbally with follow-up questions if needed. However, with time constraints, or there might be other circumstances where they might not be viable, so I have done the online as well.
Right.
I prefer the phone just because it's that opportunity to flesh something out or go into more detail or rephrase something if we feel like it's significant.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Here at East Bay High School, in your experience as a social worker, what types of abuse are most reported?
So I think the ones that are most visible are physical, involving bruising on the face, maybe the arms, things like that.
Okay.
So those are, I think, the ones that might get more attention or might start more conversations.
Right.
But the ones that I am more involved in are more with the dialogue, like follow-up kind of things. So physical or emotional.
Verbal.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay.
But again, as a social worker, I have the opportunity, or the children have the opportunity to divulge more to me in that setting than necessarily in the classroom. But
Right.
I think like the teachers, they notice bruising, unusual bruising, or circumstances like that.
Yeah. But you have the opportunity to have these real conversations with the students.
Or I have the setting in which they might divulge more personal information in a non-judgmental, safer space than a classroom where there's prying ears or eyes or just things like that.
Yeah.
So I get more information about more emotional kind of abuse rather than just I have a black eye, I got punched last night.
Yeah, I agree. So we already talked about what department or organization
Okay.
investigates child abuse. Just to recap, we would call a number for the investigator, and that goes to all of Florida.
Correct, it's 1-800-96-ABUSE
96 abuse
is the numbers.
and then Florida would contact the county.
After they take all your information, at the
Uh-huh.
end of the call, they'll let you know if they're accepting it or not.
Oh, okay.
Which means if they felt like it met the criteria,
Got it.
and then they would reach out to the county that you're calling it from, and then they would, then that county handles it, however, whatever acronym or division they have. For
And-
us, it's the CPI, Child Protective Investigator.
Nice, and that's in Hillsborough County.
Correct. And sometimes you hear DCF or DF, like Department of Children and Families. Like,
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of different anagrams that get thrown around.
And they're all pretty much the same. They're just protecting children.
An investigator that has the authority to go interview everybody that could have information and then make a determination of what the next step would be.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some speaking of next steps?
Mhm.
What are some repercussions or consequences for a parent that has found to committing child abuse?
So the first, like I said, from my understanding, my involvement of it, because when they come in, they sometimes will interview me, sometimes not.
Okay.
But a lot of the information I get is from the students themselves or sometimes the parents. But the goal here is to reunify the families when all possible. Sometimes, based on the call, they might feel like a course is needed, like a parenting class, some sort of so they might suggest something like that, a support to strengthen the family.
Okay.
They can go, so that's on one end of the spectrum. I guess one end is it's not valid or there's no not founded, but then there's support to the families and students, and then
Gotcha.
the highest tier would be actually removal of the child.
Okay.
So those are all different options.
So there's a tier system.
Correct.
Well, okay.
Yeah, and,
Very good.
and they have their own rubric or own determining factor based on what they experience and when to initiate it. But there's times where the investigators come in, interview the child, and based on the interview only, they take custody of the child at that point, and they do not go home. They do not even have a chance to talk to the parents.
Straight from the interview.
Correct.
And this is the CPI doing
Correct.
it for Hillsborough.
Yeah, and through the in conjunction with the sheriff's office. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, last question.
Mhm.
Have there been any laws that you have seen lately? You talked about the Penn State.
Well,
Any laws that have changed lately about child abuse reporting?
As far as I know, the statutes have been pretty consistent. Again, the biggest one that I'm aware of was the changing from a misdemeanor to a third-degree felony. Every year there's like little tweaks. There's been a child on child is something that's some more attention, because again, the law is guardian and parent.
Right.
And it's also for, not only for children, it's also for elderly. Like when you look at the abuse, because anyone with a disability, an intellectual or cognitive disability, because it protects those that are the most vulnerable.
Right.
And that is our young, that's our elderly, and that's others that are not able to make decisions or might be unaware or unable to.
Right.
So children on child, it doesn't necessarily fit into the guardian and parent, but I know
Right.
that there's been some attention, or at least some awareness, tried to make sure everyone's aware that that could be something that you would call in.
And you mean children on child, you mean like maybe an older brother or a sister?
Or somebody comes to spend the night and something happens at the home while that child is at their home.
Okay.
Yeah, so just, there's been, at least for our department,
Right.
some more awareness and spotlighting on that. But as far as I know, it's been pretty consistent in that it's been mandated for school employees, and the expectation is that we're gonna call in good faith.
Right.
And that as long as we call in and it's in good faith, even if it's not valid, we are still clear because we're doing our due diligence and our responsibility.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for joining us,
Of course.
Mr. Kincaid.
Anytime.
Awesome. Thank you.